Welcome to the very first episode of CircuitMeter Insights, the podcast where energy meets intelligence. Today, we're flipping the switch to discover how smart analytics, real-time data, and cutting-edge efficiency solutions are driving the future of sustainability forward. This is where the journey begins. So, plug in, power up, and let's dive in.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're digging into a really interesting company, CircuitMeter. They're focused on totally changing how businesses track and manage their energy.
Yeah, it's a space that's been, honestly, kind of stuck for a while.
Right. So our mission today isn't just about their tech, but really understanding the founders, Daniel Cito and Michael Ordanis. Their backgrounds are, well, they weren't typical energy guys, were they?
Not at all, and that's key. We want to unpack how their decades of work in fields like telecom and logistics actually gave them the tools to solve this really stubborn energy data problem.
What exactly was that core problem they saw?
It's what you could call the data blind spot. Forever, really. Businesses just couldn't afford the complex submetering needed to see where energy was being wasted inside their own buildings.
So lots of guesswork on efficiency.
Pretty much. You couldn't pinpoint the problems easily. Their vision, CircuitMeter's vision, was to attack that directly. They talk about driving energy efficiency to whole new levels.
And establishing something called forensic energy management. Sounds intense.
Yes, in a good way. Think of it like instead of just glancing at your main utility bill, you're doing a deep financial audit on every single electrical circuit. Super granular.
Okay, so the goal then, the mission, is basically to make their tech the go-to standard for that kind of detailed submetering and analysis.
Exactly, to be the technology of choice.
What really stands out looking at the team is the sheer range of expertise. It's not just energy. You see deep experience from telecom, building controls, logistics, software development at scale. It's a real mix.
A very multidisciplinary team, yeah. And that mix is precisely why they could innovate. They weren't just trying to build a slightly better old-style meter.
They built something fundamentally different based on that varied experience.
Right, a completely different approach.
Okay, so let's look at these architects. Daniel H. Cito, the CEO and COO. The sources call him a technology visionary, right? Quarter century developing groundbreaking systems.
Yeah, but critically, his groundbreaking work wasn't initially in power or energy. It was in building communication networks.
Ah, okay. So information flow, not electron flow.
Precisely. One of his early big wins was engineering this automotive dealer communication system, a DCS. It connected car dealerships all across Canada.
Seems straightforward now, maybe, but back then, linking up all those different locations with reliable data, that must have been a huge challenge.
Oh, absolutely. Logistically complex. And he showed this real knack for adapting tech across industries, too.
How so?
Well, he took manufacturing software and actually tailored it for the agriculture sector. Big growers in southern Ontario ended up using it.
Interesting. So always about connecting disparate operations, getting data flowing efficiently to a central point.
You got it. And his later work in logistics and mobile data really cemented that. He led mobile data projects for the Lenbrook Group, which included ClearNet.
And he was involved in moving companies off those big old legacy systems.
Yeah, that's a really important piece. He helped trucking companies and carriers transition from clunky old AS400 systems to more modern micro-based solutions.
Okay, hang on. Why is shifting off something like an AS400 relevant to energy metering today? What's the connection?
Well, those old mainframe systems were often proprietary, super expensive to run, needed a ton of processing power right there. Cito's skill was building decentralized systems, things spread out, cheaper, but still talking reliably back to base.
Like tracking trucks out on the road.
Exactly. Making mobile assets communicate affordably with headquarters. Which leads us right to AirIQ. That experience seems crucial.
Tell us about that.
At AirIQ, Cito's team developed one of the very first internet-based remote tracking solutions in North America. This is like the foundational piece for CircuitMeter's whole approach.
Because AirIQ proved you could monitor remote assets, vehicles, in that case, and get continuous data back over the internet reliably and affordably.
Precisely. It showed you could bypass the old way of doing things, expensive, hardwired setups, needing dedicated IT. CO had already figured out how to do it using an IoT model years before IoT was even a common term.
So his contribution is that scalable network architecture, learned from logistics and tracking, that can handle data from thousands of points without the crippling cost of traditional methods.
Perfect way to put it. He designed the data highway, basically. But you need someone to design the vehicles that run on that highway efficiently. the actual devices.
And that brings us to the co-founder, Michael Ordonis, the CTO.
Right. Ordonis has something like 30-plus years focusing on turning new tech into actual commercially viable products.
Yeah.
He's the nuts and bolts software and hardware guy.
The sources point to his background as a software design and development specialist, making things work in the real world affordably.
Exactly. And his early career is fascinating. It was in super high volume, can't-fail communications. He built call center order entry, call forwarding systems.
Wahoo.
Oh, massive names. Pizza Pizza, CAA, the GM Visa card, McDonald's, Sears Canada. Think about the sheer volume of calls and data for those companies.
Wow. Okay, zero room for error there.
None. And it wasn't just centralized stuff either. He was designing remote workforce systems for McDonald's, GM Visa, Sears.
Managing data entry from people working from, well, anywhere.
Yeah, distributed data, securely managed, using minimal resources, which sounds a lot like managing hundreds of energy meters spread across a building or a campus, doesn't it?
It really does. Secure, distributed input, optimized communication. Okay, but what's the technical leap that really cracks the cost problem in submetering?
This is where Ordonis' deeper tech expertise comes in. He developed full order entry, billing, and even wireless dispatch systems for a major Toronto courier company.
Okay.
But the real magic, the thing that likely underpins CircuitMeter's cost effectiveness, is his work developing, and this is key, optimized virtual machine firmware for low memory processors.
Right, hold on. Let's break that down. Optimized firmware, low memory processors. Why is that such a big deal for making IoT hardware cheaper, specifically for meters?
Okay, so traditional industrial meters often needed like a fairly powerful little computer right inside the meter itself. Lots of memory processing power to handle the raw data locally before sending it anywhere.
Which means expensive parts, complex installation.
Exactly. Expensive components. Ordonis' specialty seems to be the complete opposite, making data flow fast and securely using the absolute minimum hardware. Bare bones.
How does the firmware help that?
His optimized firmware means the device itself, the meter on the wall, doesn't need much expensive memory or processing power. It does just enough to grab the data and set it securely. The heavy lifting, the complex analysis, that gets done efficiently back in the cloud.
Ah, so he figured out how to use much cheaper, simpler components in the physical meter without losing performance or security. That directly tackles the cost issue that stopped so many businesses before.
It's the perfect technical solution to complement CETO's network architecture. And just like CETO, his time at AirIQ was critical here too.
Doing what specifically?
At AirIQ, Ordonis developed these intricate wireless data gateways and proprietary protocols, essentially building the secure, super efficient communication pipes between those low-cost remote devices and the central network.
Okay, so let me try and summarize the core innovation here. CETO brings the big picture, scalable network design from logistics. Ordonis brings the super optimized, low-cost device tech and secure communication protocols from telecom and wireless.
And together, that's how they engineered a way around the cost and complexity barriers that plagued traditional submetering. They effectively solved the data blind spot problem by making the solution affordable.
Which presumably led to people noticing you can have great tech, but you need market validation, right? Especially in conservative sectors like energy and buildings.
Absolutely. And they got serious validation. You look at their board of directors, for instance. It signals real credibility.
Okay, let's talk about that. The chairman is Michael Bernstein. What does his involvement signify?
Oh, Bernstein is a huge name in Canadian infrastructure and finance. Massive credibility. He has deep experience in power, utilities, infrastructure management.
Like what kind of roles?
Well, he was the president and CEO of Capstone Infrastructure Corporation. They manage power infrastructure assets globally. So he understands the big picture, the regulations, the finance of energy.
And his background before that?
Top-tier finance. High-level positions at Macquarie Group, CIBC World Markets. He dealt with mergers and acquisitions, IPOs, massive project financing deals.
So when someone like that joins as chairman,
it tells the market that this isn't just some niche gadget. It's seen as a scalable technology, potentially infrastructure grade, that fits within serious financial and utility frameworks. He's also chair of Enwave Energy, another major player.
That's powerful validation from the finance and utility side. What about from the people actually building things, like real estate developers?
That's where board member Aidan Sweeney comes in. He's president of the 6 Real Estate Developments, Inc. He provides that crucial perspective from the ground up, from modern building needs.
What's his focus?
Sweeney's all about the future of urban development, intensification, sustainability, that whole 15-minute city concept. Very forward-looking. He's building the kinds of places where energy performance is absolutely critical.
And his view on technology like CircuitMeter is interesting. He doesn't just see it as a way to be green, right?
No, and this is really telling. He supports implementing this kind of state-of-the-art tech, not just for performance or sustainability points, but explicitly as a way to generate alternative returns on those assets.
Alternative returns. Okay, what does that mean in practice?
It means energy management data, that granular forensic data, stops being just about saving on the utility bill. It becomes a factor that can actually enhance the building's financial performance. Maybe it increases the property's valuation, attracts specific tenants willing to pay more for proven efficiency, or satisfies ESG mandates for investors. The data itself becomes valuable.
So the ability to prove efficient energy use with detailed data moves from being a nice-to-have operational tool to potentially being a core financial asset for the building.
Exactly. It completely reframes the value proposition. And you see this reflected in their wider network, too.
Like their partners and associations?
Yeah, they're involved with groups like the Canada Green Building Council, BEIC, and they list channel partners, companies like Green Planet Energy Analytics, Blackstone Energy Services, whose whole business is basically using this kind of granular data to deliver efficiency services. There's clearly a growing market demand for this level of insight.
Okay, let's pull this all together. We started with the problem. Traditional submetering was just too expensive and complex for most, leaving this huge energy data blind spot.
Right, a major market failure, really.
And what we've seen is how CircuitMeter emerged from this really unique fusion of expertise. Seto's background in architecting large internet-based networks for logistics.
Combined with Ordonez's deep skills in creating highly optimized, low-cost hardware and secure wireless protocols, honed in telecom.
That specific combination seems to be what cracked the code, making detailed energy data suddenly affordable and accessible.
It democratized it, essentially. It brought forensic energy management out of the realm of just massive industrial plants with huge budgets and made it practical for almost any commercial building or facility owner.
So when you look at CircuitMeter, you're not just seeing meters, you're really seeing the outcome of decades of innovation in completely different fields: mobile tracking, wireless communication, efficient firmware, all converging to solve an old energy problem.
It's a great example of cross-industry innovation.
Which leads to a final thought for you, our listener. If, as we heard, major infrastructure financiers like Bernstein and cutting-edge developers like Sweeney see this kind of granular energy data tech as a way to generate alternative returns on assets.
What does that really tell us about the true economic value of this previously hidden real-time energy data? Especially now, as things like carbon reporting become more widespread and even mandatory. What's that data actually worth in the global economy?
If data itself drives financial returns, that's a massive shift, a whole new ballgame. Okay, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into CircuitMeter's origins and architecture. Definitely explore that concept of forensic energy management further. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.